and welcome to another episode of Cinnamon Stitches. I am your yarn host, Jennifer. Today, video quality is probably not going to be that great. I am not recording with my normal filming camera. I'm recording with my phone today because all of my batteries are dead. I came in here, I was like, all right, time to get to work. But the way I've been working is because this room has been in shambles, if you haven't noticed. By the way, I am feeling better, but this cough is probably going to last me until, I don't know, winter. It probably will. Anyway. Because of the rearranging and all that of this room, I have had my laptop and other supplies in other parts of the house so that I could work, and this room was a hot mess. It was a hot mess. Speaking of a hot mess, that is today's subject. So, first of all, I know I'm going to be asked because everyone that has seen this shirt on Brunhilde has asked, hey, what is that? Is it going to be a pattern? It may be a pattern in the future. Not right now because I don't have the time to do that right now, but it is just something that I made for myself. It's a shirt. It doesn't have a pattern yet. One day maybe. I'm still working right now on the Phoenix shawl. I'm trying to get that tutorial at the very least started. I'm trying to decide if I want to do that in a what yarn I want to use for that. So we're debating that in my own head. I'm debating it. What yarn do I want to use? I want to use a worsted weight because it worked up really a lot faster in worsted weight. Maybe a 3-weight, nothing thinner than that. I'm debating, do I want to do like a color transitioning yarn? Do I want to do all one color like the white one? I'm just in my head. I can't do white for the tutorial because white blows out the camera like immensely. So, So today's subject, anyway, back to focus. Today's subject is how to destash. The title of the video might be a little different than that, but I figured I worked really hard in here, and in case anybody wanted some pointers or tips on how to destash or at least declutter their stash, or maybe some organization, I'm going to try to give you some of the tips that I used in the reorganization of my room. Some of the things that I did that was really, really hard for me to do. And yeah. All right, so I'm just going to talk through some bullet points. I didn't write anything down. I didn't even take notes. This is just going to be off the top of my head. We're just going to like wing it like we normally do. So when I started destashing, for me personally, and I've said this in past videos, it is a very personal thing because I have a very unusual, not unusual to you guys, but unusual to the rest of the world, relationship with my yarn. I really love my yarn. I get really attached to my yarn, but I also have psychological damage from growing up poor and like having the need to hold on to things way longer because what if something happens? And this is also comes into play my anxiety that I've had since I was very, very young. I always think of the worst possible scenarios, and sometimes I actually live them out in my head as a way to prepare myself in case that happens. But this is all learned behavior from trauma. So this is what I said. I got some crazy going on in there, but I at least recognize that it's crazy or unreasonable, and I try to either live with it or I try to help myself along to progress in life, because if we're not growing, we're remaining stagnant, and I'm not interested in being stagnant. I don't like stagnant water. I don't want a stagnant Jen. So with that, when I was going through my yarn, my goal, now here's the thing, you need to set a goal. If you have a goal for your stash and you want to reach that goal, whether it just be you want to clean it up a little bit or you want to organize it, that's fine. Whatever your personal goal is, like, there's no judgment. Just make sure you set a goal and start with that goal. Don't make it a huge, massive goal like I did. Don't do that. That'll make you cry a lot. Just set a goal. My goal was I wanted to be able to see, for the most part, every skein of yarn that I own. I had double and triple layers, and here I have double layers. There's double layers of cake on this shelf, but the cakes that are directly behind these doubles is that exact yarn. So I can physically see every skein of yarn that I own, which is why I chose clear plastic boxes. That was a kind of a big cost for me. I spent about $100 on plastic bins so that I had clear plastic bin, and I did try the $1.25 tree first. They didn't have anything that was sufficient, and so I ended up having to go to Home Depot and Lowe's. I got clear bins so I could clearly see what's in there. And then I have a little Dymo. I thought it was on my desk. Little man probably walked off with it once again. He loves the thing. It's a really old school labeler. I would love to upgrade and get like a nice labeler where you just type it in and it prints it for you. But no, this is the kind where you gotta squeeze really hard for it to imprint the letters. I have cinnamon stitches on this shelf somewhere. You can't see it because of the little tablecloth thing. But I labeled some of them so that I knew what that box was meant for. So over there I have a box that says Premier Yarns Yarn of the Week. So Premier Yarn of Week, PYOW. You know, that's my little abbreviation in my notes now, which will be coming up tomorrow. Can't wait to show you that yarn. So my goal was to see all of my yarn so that when I was hunting for a specific yarn that I know that I possess, I can find it. You can also probably take notes. Some people have taken buckets and take a picture of what's in their yarn and they tape it on the side of the box, whatever. Those are good ideas too. But for me, I wanted clear. I wanted to be able to, at a quick glance, look in the bucket and say, okay, I know what's in that bucket. And without having to open anything. Because before I showed you guys, I had really big white tubs. And that was a secondary goal, is I wanted those to be empty, and they are completely empty. I showed those in Monday's video. I filled up 5 of those buckets and got rid of 5 of those buckets worth of yarn. 5 42-gallon plastic buckets full of yarn. So I did both of my goals. Those were my goals. I made the goal. I made a plan on how to achieve that goal, and then I reached that goal and I celebrated. I bought myself some crab and I fed crab for my family. It was an awesome celebration. It was fantastic. So when you set a goal, you have to make a plan on how to reach your goal. And for me I didn't really make a very good plan. I kind of just do like I normally do, and I winged it. Well, Mr. Cinnamon's idea was he was going to come and hold my foot to the fire, so to speak, and say, hey, this yarn. And he was going to show me yarn by yarn and hold me accountable. What are your plans for this yarn? And so if you don't have a Mr. Cinnamon who is willing to do that for you in a kind and loving manner, because I know that some children, some spouses, some people that are in our lives don't understand. It will be kind of harsh to be like, you don't need that, get rid of it. That's not what Mr. Cinnamon did. He said he really made me question myself. So hold yourself accountable. Hold your own feet to the fire and say, do I really need this in my life? The answer for this yarn was absolutely, I needed this. What are your plans for it? And so that's what he did, is he's like, what are your plans for this yarn? If you don't have plans, you have no idea what you're going to do with it, then you need to really think about, what could I make with it? And if you still can't come up with something, it's time to let someone else have that yarn. Donate it, make mystery packages. I talked to one of you guys, as a matter of fact. She ordered a mystery box, but she's local to me, so I just met her up at the post office to save us both some shipping and handling charges. And I was talking to her, and Keisha, I hope you don't mind me telling your story. If you do mind, you can let me know. But she has recently discovered she has skin problems like I do, but hers are far more. I don't want to say they're worse than mine, but they are worse than mine. She has, like, she has some pretty severe skin condition, and she discovers she can't use acrylic. So she's like, okay, well, I need to get rid of the acrylic because, like, why keep it if I can't use it, right? So she donated it to her church ministry, who makes things for people who need them, which I think is a fantastic way to get rid of. And I have in the past, I have made huge donations to certain places. The one that you guys are very familiar with is when I donated to the college knit and crochet club at James Madison University. That was pretty awesome. That was a lot of fun too. So it doesn't matter where you donate. I don't care where you donate. If you choose to donate, you can donate to somebody who's just learning to knit or crochet. You can donate to charitable places. Where's my bird clock? Who's a pretty bird? You hear it? The bird says, who's a pretty bird? Who's a pretty bird? Yeah, that's my bird clock. So, what was I talking about? You can donate wherever you want to donate. You can have a garage sale, and if you go and you post your garage sales in like the local newspaper or online, or you can post your yarn for sale on Facebook Marketplace. Like, there's lots of places to get rid of excess stash yarn. There are a lot of people that search Facebook Marketplace every day because they cannot afford to pay full price for yarn, so they look for the discounted yarns where they can. I try to keep my yarn prices as low as possible because I know that there's people that can't afford it and would really appreciate it. And a lot of times I purchase yarn for the sole purpose of showing you guys on the channel. And so I do end up having an excess amount of yarn that I can very easily get rid of. But then there's like the skeins of yarn where, like, you know it's discontinued and you really enjoyed working with it, so you hold on to it, which I did a lot with a lot of yarns. And then I was like, okay, it's time to let go of this yarn because I've already used it. I enjoyed it. I have no plans for it. It is time to let go and say goodbye. That was hard. That was an emotional thing for me, especially when I really, really love the yarn. But then I realized, like, I don't have any plans for that. And here's another thing that I've talked about on the channel quite frequently is I take the yarn and if I have a plan for the yarn, I will hold on to it. But my problem is that I'm like, okay, well, I don't really like this. Like, I have a couple Karen cakes right here. I don't really like Karen cakes, but I kept a couple because I really like the colorways. And I got rid of all the rest of them because I was using the Karen cakes, even though I don't enjoy them, to get rid of them and get them out of my stash. And now I have like all these Premier Yarn cakes that I wasn't using that I want to use. By the way, this was made out of a Karen cake. It absolutely was. But I would enjoy this shirt so much more if it was like the really soft anti-pilling acrylic that is on this shelf of my Premier Yarns. It's a beautiful top, but it's a little bit irritating to my skin, so it won't stay on me very long. It's just on me for the purpose of this video. And because it kind of matches my hair a little bit, you know. Anyway, that's another thing I didn't want to do anymore. I didn't want to continue to use yarn that didn't give me joy and that hurt my hands or my skin to work with. I want yarn that I know I'm going to love working with. So when your stash is this is why I'm starting to, when I buy yarn, for example, this new yarn that I'm going to be showing you tomorrow, the Premier Basics Mosaic. There was only 6 colors. I could have purchased every 6 color to show you, but then I'm like, okay, well, 3 of the colors I don't like at all. I don't like them. So I bought the colors that bring me the most joy because I have a better chance of actually using these for a product. And I have really started to really think about the way I'm purchasing yarn. And that's a way to just control your stash, is to think about what you're buying before you buy it. Don't just go like haywire, like, I need all the yarn, because that's what some of us do. And also, don't look at like a podcaster's backdrop and say, I need that much yarn because that is like the goal. That's not the goal. This is very hard to maintain. It's not realistic. It's not reasonable even for most people to have this size of a stash. And so, like, a lot of podcasters do it with each other, where we compare, like, well, I wish my stash looked like her stash, or I wish I had the kind of yarn she had. That's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. You have to learn to love your own stash. For me, I love my stash because every single time I personally have needed a yarn in the past 2 years because of the way I cultivated my stash, I have been able to come in here and find something that worked. So that's where really being mindful and thinking about what you're buying before you just buy it because it's on a really good sale. Or have a plan for the yarn before you purchase it. That's what has worked for me very well, except for the fact that I had way too much blue yarn, and I don't use blue yarn, and I don't know why I don't use blue yarn, but I don't really use it. Like, I have a little boy. You guys have heard of Little Man many times. You've seen him yesterday. He, as a little boy, you'd think I'd have a use for blue yarn. He doesn't like blue. He loves the color red. So I need red yarns because everything he wants has to be red. Like, he wanted a red mushroom, or he wants me to make him a red pokeball, or like everything is red. Red is his favorite color, and he just loves the color red. So blues don't even make sense for that. Plus, I have mostly females in my life. Like my nieces, I have almost all nieces, and the nephews that I have are in Texas. I don't really have a relationship with them. So it's crazy. So it makes more sense to have more girl colors. And even the nephews that I do have that are in Texas, I don't think they're not knit and crochet worthy. They are not yarn worthy at all. They would not appreciate anything that I made. So they're just not those type of people. They don't appreciate like the arts. So they appreciate monetary things, if you get what I'm saying. So anyway, there's not a big need for blue in my stash. And I had way too much because I was like, oh, blue is pretty. Buy some blue yarn. I don't use blue. I rarely use blue. I don't wear blue. And I think part of that's a childhood thing too, is my older sister that I absolutely do not get along with, do not talk to, do not have any kind of contact with. Um, her favorite color has always been blue, and she was always like very like, oh, blue is me. Mine, blue mine. She's that kind of personality. And so for me, blue is now like off-puttish to me, like, blue. Ugh. I think blue is a beautiful color, don't get me wrong. But there's that psychological thing in the back of my head. Is like, I'm not using blue because of her, which is really, really stupid. And I do realize that. But I think that's like something that's in the back of my head is like, blue. I had to even embrace the color purple. And I told this in a past video. When I was younger, I was fat shamed a lot when I was younger. Mostly by my family and said older sister. I was not accepted because of that. And in school, and like just being a fat person in general, like people didn't really accept me, and I didn't accept myself. I hated myself. Um that's another whole story. But I had this beautiful purple outfit, and I was called Barney. And so from then on, and then it seems like for some reason in the fat people world for a long time, like clothes had to be purple. And then like if they were going to make characters like Mickey Mouse clothes for the skinny people, but all the fat people get stuck with Eeyore because we're all depressed apparently. So, and all the clothes were purple with Eeyore on them. So I also became to detest Eeyore, but I love Eeyore. Like he's got issues, yeah, but I love Eeyore. But I detested him because they're trying to force us into that box of Barney and Eeyore. And so I used to hate the color purple because that, even though at one time purple was my favorite color. And now I've gotten in the past 5 years or so to actually re-embrace my love for purple. you know. And no, this is not the first time my hair has been purple. I was debating purple or red. I wanted red, like Juju's red, like red. But then I didn't want to be that mom that like looked like she was trying to be young, like her daughter, that stereotype. And so I was on the fence. I'm standing in Walgreens, and I was like, "Little man, pick a hair color for mommy," because my hair was starting to look dull and lifeless in pictures. The prom pictures that I took with Juju and Hermione, my hair looked kind of gray, and I wasn't ready to look that old in photos. And so I became very vain, even though up till that point, I was accepting of the gray hair. I thought it was pretty, and it looked like my hair was sparkly. And then like those pictures, I was like, oh, my hair looks really bad in certain lights, so it's time to freshen it up. So I let little man stand there. I was like, okay, pick a color. And he picked this color, so that's why my hair is this color. Anyway, back to what we're supposed to be talking about is yarn organization and yarn stash. Whatever space you have allowed for yourself or is allowed for you from other people that live in your house, whatever that size space is, try to keep it to that. So don't go hiding it in closets and under the bed. Because quite a few of you had admitted to me that you hide your yarn in this trunk of your car or wherever. Try to keep it in the place that you are allowing for yourself. I don't want to say what someone else is allowing for you, because I don't believe someone else should dictate to you what you're allowed to have. I don't like that. And if you're a husband that tells your wife she can't buy yarn, shame on you. Shame on you. But also, if you're the wife that spends too much money that you don't have, shame on you too. Don't do that. Be responsible. Be responsible. For me, I have a whole room that I'm allowed to fill up as much as I want. And honestly, I filled up a closet too, which is part of the problem. I wanted that closet cleaned out. Now I just need to go through all of the makes that I have that are shoved in there in Tupperware containers and get those moving on to different lives as well, because I'm not wearing any of them. So that's another thing I need to do. Keep in mind the size space that you have for your yarn stash. Try to stick to that and try to find what works for that space. If you have to invest your yarn budget and buy nice plastic containers you can see through, take your yarn budget and put it towards a way to store the yarn instead of buying more yarn right now. And then next month, or maybe in the next couple of months, you can save up some more money for your yarn budget. You know, using your yarn budget for plastic containers or a new shelving unit for that. By the way, these bookshelves in here, I all bought at the thrift store, and I don't know if you guys know that or not. I never spend more than $20 on a fully wooden bookshelf. I refuse to buy that pressed wood stuff. I hate it. Even my desk is a kitchen table that is from the thrift store, and it's solid wood. And it's a beautiful kitchen table, and it's a big giant desk for my room. And it seats me and Mr. Cinnamon. It has a nice leaf in it. This table extends to 9 feet. And then if I ever magically come up with extra friends and family that want to come over and I need to have a bigger space to feed them on, I have a 9-foot kitchen table that I could feed them on. So it's all good. It's all good. I also have a plastic container or a plastic table that we usually use instead. It's 6 foot. It works. It will seat up to 8 people, I think. But yeah, these bookshelves are all, I think this one with the light was 20. This one was 15. This entire system of 6 pieces, because this is, I think it's Pottery Barn. So there's a piece here, a piece here, a piece down there, and then there's 3 pieces here. That was $30 for all 6 of those pieces, and I can rearrange them any way I want. And then I have another shelf right here, $15 at the thrift store. And sometimes you gotta search and search to find a good bookshelf at a thrift store, because a lot of times thrift stores will get bookshelves in and use them as their shelving systems in the stores. So that's why I recommend like Goodwill or St. Vincent de Paul or Salvation Army here in America. I don't know what is abroad. That's where I've gotten all my bookshelves from. So $15 investment to store your yarn beautifully like that. It was well worth the money. The plastic bins always cost me way more than my bookshelves, because the bins are like sometimes $15. These were $12, and the ones that are on top of my shelves up there, those were $15 each. They hold a lot of yarn, but at least I can see what I'm looking at or looking for. So yeah, take some of your yarn budget and really put it towards organization. And the way that I have done these is, this is cotton cakes and cotton skeins. And then I have one that's over on this shelf, the light up shelf, that has hand-dyed yarns in it. And then I have organized each bucket by specific type of yarns. I have one up there that is kits. I have one up there that is rainbows that was mostly gifted to me from you guys. And yeah, so I have quite a few that are just cakes. So, and mostly Premier Yarns cakes, but they're in multiples of like 3 or more, and that's why they're up there. It's because they don't quite fit on my shelves. But you know, and then I always have, I know you guys can't see, it's because it's behind the shelf over there. If I turn my head, it will get really bright. There's a rainbow over there. It's right there. My rainbow still exists, but you know, So I hope these tips have helped you at least a little bit to really think about your stash, maybe destash a little bit, how to destash a little bit. Like if you have to go through and say every single yarn and touch it and make sure that it's something you want to keep and you want to use for a specific project or whatever, by all means. But it will help you to go through and organize and really think about what you need, what you want, and what you can part with that someone else may really enjoy. And I hope some of the organization tips have helped. Some things I learned with this one is to put yarn together with it instead of, because I like the rainbow, which is on this shelf, which you cannot see because it's dark over there. I kept a rainbow, but also I started to put yarns that are like yarned together. So this shelf is Premier Basics or value acrylic that I can use. Like Bernat Comfort is on there. And I think that's mostly Premier Basics because that is my personal choice for value yarn that doesn't scratch my skin real bad. It's nice to work with. It works up beautifully. And then I put the cakes together. So this is mostly mandala and a couple of Karen cakes. This is all my Premier Yarns cakes with my Sesame Street cakes. And then up here is Hirschner's hot cakes. And this one right here is a Hobie cake. So these are hot Plymouth hot cakes, Hobie cakes. There's a couple of Hirschner's cakes up there. And then I put blanket yarns on this bottom shelf right here. So if it's like a bulky number 5, which I got rid of most of, and I had enough to make at least a baby blanket out of it, I put those together. And then I have a bucket where I took all of my fuzzy yarn, like my Huga, and I put that all together because that is enough to make a blanket. So I put that together. Whereas before I had Huga on this shelf, Huga on this shelf, Huga on this shelf, because I color coded it. That didn't work for me at all. Because I was searching, I was like, okay, I know I have this yarn, where is it at? So now I have learned to put the yarn with its like yarn. So the type of yarn it is. If I have cottons, the cottons are together. If I have like acrylics, the acrylics are together, mostly on the shelf. The wools are on this shelf. I tried to keep them together so that if I want to make a bigger project, I'm not fishing and trying to find, well, I need this, and well, I need this over here, and I need that over there, or where did this yarn go? So I put them together in a space to where if I wanted to work them together, I could, or if I wanted to just work one, at least they're all together. I know what's left of my inventory of that. So I'm trying to think of it more like a store or like a business instead of just, it's pretty. I need it to work for me. I need it to be more reasonable, you know. And it was a hard process. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It was hard. It's not easy to really look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I need to change. But I did. I'm proud. And I hope that this can help you in even a small way. And yeah, stay tuned tomorrow. We're going to be reviewing Premier Basics Mosaic. Very excited about that yarn. I'm not sure what's going to be up Friday. Because I cleaned out so much of the yarn, I'm kind of like not wanting to buy yarn. But it's also, this week is, well, April 30th is National Local Yarn Shop Day. And a lot of local yarn shops are having a sale, including my favorite store, Michigan Fine Yarns. Michigan Fine Yarns having a sale in-store and on their website. So if you check that out, they're offering a 10% discount, which I think is pretty fantastic for a local yarn shop. So I was thinking about maybe placing an order with her because I really adore Swarin and I love her store, and I just, you know, I like discounts. And, you know, it would be like if I bought, like if you're going to buy from a local yarn shop, if you buy $100 worth of yarn, you might get like 4 skeins of yarn. Whereas if you like went to Premier Yarns and I wanted $100 worth of yarn, I could get like a giant box full of yarn. So yeah, that's another thing. I'm trying to think of what I actually am going to use instead of just what I can get the most of, which is what I have been known to do in the past. Anyway, I'm going to be quiet. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.